Hi there, and welcome to the 7th tutorial in this series of training videos for the RS Pro Training Series PC-9. In this video we are going to look at VFR flight, or visual flight rules. So, to do this, I've planned out the following flight plan. We depart from Pierce, head out towards Gingin before turning south for Rottnest Island, flying back down to Murray Field, turning back north up towards Perth itself before coming back to Pierce. We'll be conducting this flight at 5,000 feet. Correction, 3,000 feet. So we'll have a true airspeed of 261 knots. This gives us the speeds and times which we'll be using to make certain that we're actually on track with where we need to go. I've got a stopwatch built into my keyboard, but I strongly recommend that you have a stopwatch available to you if you're going to do VFR flight, as well as any charts. As we covered in the previous tutorial, SkyVector comes in handy, so you can use Plan G or anything else. I'm not going to go too much into depth on the fuel planning for this one. We're just going to simulate that we've got full tanks. But normally I'd work out the exact amount of fuel that we'd need for the flight and make certain I've got it. But for 33.2 minutes, we've definitely got enough fuel on board. I'm just going to drag my SkyVector window over to my other monitor. This gives me the equivalent of being able to glance down at a chart or the like, attached to my leg. Given, obviously, I can't just glance down in the cockpit here. Once again, we're at Pierce. I've got the aircraft started up like normal, and I've got no real weather in. I could run it with real weather, but for the purpose of this tutorial, I just want it generally clear and visual. Well, real life weather, I can't guarantee that. I'm going to quickly check our settings here, make certain that everything looks good, which it should. We have actually completed a standard startup check. Then we're going to taxi over to 18 left and take off and head out towards Gingin. So let's get started, shall we? Now we're going to line up. We're going to dial in our first course item. The first course item we've got is 329. So we're going to be flying on a heading of 329. Of course, we'll be taking off on 180, so we're going to have to at least come around slightly in the pattern. To help me out a little bit here, of course, I've got my instruments. We're not actually going to use the TACAN or anything, we're just going to use the standard HSI. So we're going to bring the heading bug around to 329. We'll be flying that from over the top of Piers for about 3.3 minutes to get out to Gingin. Once we get to Gingin, we'll be turning to a heading of 209 and flying for 8.5 minutes. So, let's get airborne. I am going to turn my track IR on like normal. Positive rate and gear is up. I'm just going to adjust my volumes a little bit here. Now, we want to climb to 3,000 feet. And if there's the course we want to fly. We're basically over top of Pierce, so we're going to start the timer. And now we're at 3,000 feet. We want to start trimming ourselves out. And get ourselves all set up for a nice level flight. Keep that speed dialed in at about 250 knots. It's indicated. At the same time, we're keeping an eye out for our visual aids. We know that the highway runs north out of Pierce, and we'll be crossing over it in a moment. A little bit of turbulence there. because we are set to fair weather. We're not completely weatherless. So we're coming up on almost 3 minutes. We should start seeing Gingin in front of us, and if we take a look, I do believe that's Gingin just over there. So we've actually made good timing. So overhead Gingin, we want to turn to 209 and of course reset our clock. So we're going to come around to a heading of 209. And we want to get back down to our correct altitude. So this one's going to be 8.4. And a few things we can use for visual reference along this section of the trip. One, we know that as we get out over the coast a little bit, Pierce and Perth should go on our left hand side. Need to trim the aircraft out a little bit more here. We need to come a little bit to the right. The big one with visual navigation though is you're not going to be precisely 100% every time, but we do know that we need to put this little bit of the town a little bit further off, so we're going to fly just a few moments to the right of our desired track. Now, based on the map, so if I bring our map over here for a moment, you'll see we're coming down this leg and we should be passing with this lake on our left, which we are. So we're going to continue to head out on this track for 8.4 minutes. And of course, checking our fuel, making certain that we're within our limits. We've lost a little bit of speed there, so we need to get that back. But we can see Rottnest Island in front of us, so there's our visual navigation point. And from Rottnest Island we're going to be making a turn to 156. So we're going to dial that in down here now. So again, if we couldn't see Rottnest Island for some reason, say the conditions had visibility reduced a little bit, we know that we're roughly in the right position because we've got Perth off to our wing, we're flying the right heading, we're coming up on just on 6 minutes, so we know we should be seeing Rottnest Island within the next 2 minutes. So if we look down there, we can just make out Rottnest Island's runway along there, which of course is our second VFR reference point. We're just coming up on 8 minutes. And 8 minutes 0.4, we're over Rottnest Island like we should be. So we're going to stop the clock again and start it once more as we come around for 156. Now, flying towards 156, we know that we've got a small island in front of us. So if we bring our map over, we know that we've got Garden Island, which we'll be flying over. Then we've got the bay. We want to look for this little cut and make certain that we actually fly over this section like we're meant to. That'll let us know that we're on course. We can see the perf's definitely out on our wing like it's meant to be. There's Garden Island, and if we look, we can see that we are coming up to that little bite section that we could see on our map. So if we take a look again, we're flying over Garden Island now, and we're coming up to this little section here, just here. So passing over Garden Island, we're just approaching the 4-minute mark. We've got the lakes and the little bite that we were talking about, so we're definitely coming over that section just as we'd planned. We should pass with this second lake here on the left of our aircraft. Now I'm not 100% certain if Murrayfield's actually prepared. So we're going to find out. So by the looks of it, we've got a building out there, roughly where Murrayfield should be. But either way, leaving Murrayfield, we're actually heading for a GPS coordinate rather than, or a visual nav aid, rather than an actual easily discernible item. But we'll be flying out on a heading of 036. We'll be flying that course for another 8.4 minutes. We can see Murrayfield down there. So as we can see, we're coming up on Murrayfield. So we're going to make, once again, reset our clock. Start it up again. And bring the aircraft around to 036. Now the first visual aid we've got is the fact that we've got the mountains in front of us, which matches what we could see on the map here. We know that we've got the mountain, or the foothills, all along here. And what we'll be looking out for as we go across is, of course, one, the highway that runs along this section. But also this first little river, the second, or lake, the lake with the river here, and then of course our visual reference point, which is where this lake splits, at which point we'll be turning towards Pierce. So there's what looks like the highway down there. And we can see our first little lake area just in front of us there, letting us know that we are on track. Now we basically want to cross it almost dead centre. We also want to lose a little bit of height, being and looking at the other visual reference points I've got, I can tell that Perth's just over there in that direction there. The small circular lake should be passing on our wing just as we come to the lake in front of us, which it is. And of course after that should be the second lake with the river running out of it, which we can see just there. And this one we want to pass at the northern end of. You can see the road that was also on the maps, passing over that. There's the small lake that we could see on the map, so we definitely know we're in the right spot. As we pass over the actual lake itself. Now we've lost a little bit of speed here, so we need to make it up a little bit, just so we can try and keep our estimated ground speed and times. So here we can see we're coming up on the visual aid that I was using for the next turn, which will be across to a heading of 332. And we can confirm that it's the right one. Long lake, the two arms. At the same time we should have Perth off our left wing, and we should be passing over a set of roads, which we are. So everything's looking a-okay in that respect. Let's get our altitude back down. A little bit of turbulence there. So, okay, we want to bring ourselves around. Now we should be heading back to Pierce, so reset our clock again, start it. We want to maintain this for 5 minutes. The other thing we're trying to do here is just keep low enough and far enough out that we're able to avoid the edge of Perth's controlled airspace. And we can already see that we're dead on target. Pierce is directly on our nose. Once we're clear of Perth, we're going to shift around and come in for an initial pitch. So in this case, we're going to pretend at the moment that we've just gotten permission from Perth to actually enter controlled airspace if required. Now, the biggest thing you have to remember with visual flight rules is that there are rules governing when you are VFR and when you are not. Those rules can be found in the URSA and the AIP for Australia. But typically, your best bet's to make certain that you've got at least 5 nautical miles clear horizontal and 1,000 feet above and below. And we're on the ground. So there you have the general basics of visual flight rules navigation. It's pretty much setting a group of waypoints and visual aids, making certain that you maintain a set speed, and you have a good time plan for making certain that you're hitting those aids when and how you should be. Anyway, my name's Rob. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. I'll catch you next time.